The alarms blared, echoing through the corridors of the colonial outpost as Commander Ava Kessler sprinted towards the command center. Explosions rocked the facility, sending debris flying in all directions. She reached the control room, where chaos reigned as her officers scrambled to coordinate the defense. "Status report," Ava shouted over the din of battle. "Multiple breaches in the outer perimeter, Commander," one of her lieutenants shouted back. "We're holding, but we can't keep this up for long." Ava gritted her teeth, surveying the tactical map, displaying the advancing alien forces. The Krynnar were relentless, their sleek ships raining down destruction upon the colony. They had caught them off guard, and now it was up to Ava to rally her troops and turn the tide of battle. "We need reinforcements," Ava said, her voice firm. "Send out a distress signal to any nearby fleets. We can't let them take this outpost without a fight." As her orders were relayed, Ava turned to Dr. Marcus Chen, who was frantically working at his console, analyzing data and running simulations. "Marcus, any luck with those new weapons?" Ava asked, hoping for a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. Marcus shook his head, frustration evident on his face. "Not yet, Commander. The Krynnar's technology is far beyond anything we've ever seen. It's going to take time to find a weakness." Ava clenched her fists, feeling the weight of responsibility bearing down on her. She couldn't afford to show weakness in front of her troops, not now. "Keep at it, Marcus," she said, her voice determined. "We'll hold them off for as long as we can." Meanwhile, Private Sarah Reyes was at the forefront of the battle, her pulse rifle blazing as she took down wave after wave of alien soldiers. She had dreamed of glory and honor when she signed up for the military, but now all she felt was fear and adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Stay focused, Reyes," her sergeant barked, snapping her out of her reverie. "We need to hold this line." Sarah nodded, steeling herself for the onslaught. She may be young and inexperienced, but she refused to let her fear dictate her actions. The battle raged on, each passing moment feeling like an eternity as the outpost shook from the force of the enemy's assault. But Ava refused to back down, rallying her troops with a steely resolve born from years of experience. "We will not let them take this outpost," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos, "for humanity." As the fighting intensified, Ava knew that the fate of the colony hung in the balance. Failure was not an option, not when so much was at stake. "Keep fighting," she shouted, leading by example as she charged into the fray, her determination unwavering. And so, amidst the fury of battle, Commander Ava Kessler and her brave soldiers stood their ground, ready to pay whatever price necessary to defend their home. Chapter 2. Resistance. The colony's defenses were crumbling, the once proud outpost now reduced to a smoldering ruin. Commander Ava Kessler surveyed the devastation with a heavy heart, knowing that they had lost this battle, but she refused to let despair take hold. There were still lives to save, and she would do everything in her power to ensure the survival of her people. "Fall back to the extraction point," she ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We're leaving." Her troops rallied around her, fighting tooth and nail as they retreated from the advancing alien forces. Explosions erupted around them, sending shock waves rippling through the air. Ava gritted her teeth, every step forward feeling like a battle against the weight of the universe itself. Meanwhile, Dr. Marcus Chen worked feverishly in his makeshift laboratory, his mind racing as he searched for a solution to the Krynnar threat. Failure was not an option. Not when so many lives hung in the balance. "We need something, Marcus," Sarah said, her voice tinged with desperation as she watched the battle unfold outside. "Anything that can give us an edge against those aliens." Marcus nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. "I'm doing everything I can, Sarah, but the Krynar's technology is unlike anything we've ever encountered. It's going to take time to find a weakness." Sarah clenched her fists, frustration bubbling up inside her. She had joined the military to make a difference, to protect the innocent from harm. But now, faced with an enemy they couldn't hope to defeat, she felt powerless. "We can't give up, Marcus," she said, her voice determined. "Humanity is counting on us to find a way to beat these bastards." Marcus smiled grimly, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Then we'll just have to keep trying until we do." As the last of the human forces made their escape, Ava looked back at the burning ruins of the outpost with a heavy heart. They had lost this battle, but the war was far from over. She vowed to herself that she would do whatever it took to protect her people, no matter the cost. "Next time we'll be ready," she whispered, her voice filled with determination. And so, amidst the ashes of defeat, Commander Ava Kessler and her fellow soldiers prepared to face the challenges that lay ahead, for they knew that as long as humanity stood united, they would never be truly defeated. Chapter 3: Alliance. As the remnants of humanity's forces regrouped in the aftermath of the devastating defeat, Commander Ava Kessler found herself facing a difficult decision. With the Krynar Dominion closing in on their remaining strongholds, they needed all the help they could get, even if it meant forging an alliance with an alien race they knew little about. "Commander, we've received a transmission," one of Ava's lieutenants announced, breaking her train of thought. "It's from an alien counselor offering to negotiate an alliance." Ava's brow furrowed in suspicion. Trusting aliens was not something she was accustomed to, but desperate times called for desperate measures. "Patch it through," she ordered, steeling herself for whatever came next. On the holographic display, a figure materialized, its form alien and otherworldly. Ava studied the being, trying to gauge its intentions. "I am Counselor Vraxus of the Zeltari," the alien said, its voice echoing through the chamber. "We have been monitoring your conflict with the Krynar Dominion and believe that, together, we can stand a chance against their aggression." Ava narrowed her eyes, weighing her options. She had heard rumors of the Zeltari, a reclusive race known for their advanced technology and diplomatic prowess. If anyone could help them turn the tide of the war, it was them. "What do you want in return?" Ava asked, not willing to trust the alien's offer at face value. Vraxus inclined his head, a gesture of respect. "We seek to form an alliance with humanity against the Krynar Dominion. Together, we can share resources and intelligence, bolstering our forces against our common enemy." Ava considered his words carefully. She didn't trust the Zeltari, but she knew that they couldn't afford to turn down their offer of assistance, not when the survival of humanity hung in the balance. "Very well, Counselor Vraxus," she said, her voice firm. "We accept your offer of alliance, but know this, if you betray us, there will be consequences." Vraxus nodded solemnly. "Understood, Commander. Together, we will stand against the darkness." As the transmission ended, Ava couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gnawed at her insides. But for now she had no choice but to trust in the alliance and hope that it would be enough to turn the tide of the war. Meanwhile, Dr. Marcus Chen worked tirelessly in his laboratory, poring over data and running simulations in search of a way to defeat the Krynna. With the resources of the Zeltari at their disposal, he knew that they stood a better chance than ever before. "We can do this, Marcus," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination as she watched him work. "We have to believe that together we can beat them." Marcus smiled, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "With the Zeltari's help, I believe we can." And so, as humanity and the Zeltari forged an unlikely alliance in the face of overwhelming odds, Commander Ava Kessler and her fellow soldiers prepared for the battles that lay ahead. For they knew that as long as they stood united, there was hope for victory against the Krynna Dominion. Chapter 4. Betrayal. The alliance between humanity and the Zeltari was put to the test sooner than expected, as General Zalatar, the ruthless leader of the Krynna Dominion, launched a surprise attack on their combined forces. Commander Ava Kessler and her troops found themselves once again thrust into the heart of battle, their resolve tested like never before. "We're under attack!" Ava shouted, her voice ringing out over the chaos of the battlefield. "All units, prepare to engage the enemy." The human and Zeltari forces scrambled to defend themselves against the onslaught, but the Krynna's superior numbers and firepower proved to be too much to handle. "We need reinforcements," Ava called out, desperation creeping into her voice as she watched her soldiers fall one by one. But the reinforcements never came. It soon became clear that the Zeltari had betrayed them, leaving humanity to face the full fury of the Krynna alone. "Damn them!" Ava cursed, her fists clenched in anger. "We trusted them, and they stabbed us in the back." Dr. Marcus Chen gritted his teeth, his hands flying across his console as he desperately tried to come up with a plan to turn the tide of the battle. "They've cut off our communications with the fleet," he said, his voice tight with frustration. "We're on our own out here." Sarah Reyes felt a cold rage boiling inside her as she watched her comrades fall in battle. The Zeltari had promised to help them, and now they were paying the price for trusting in their word. "We can't let them get away with this," she growled, her pulse rifle blazing as she took down enemy after enemy. As the battle raged on, Ava knew that they were fighting a losing battle, but she refused to give up, not when there were still lives to save. "We need to fall back," she said, her voice grim. "We can't win this fight, but we can regroup and come back stronger." Reluctantly, her troops began to retreat, fighting tooth and nail as they made their escape from the battlefield. The losses were heavy, but they had managed to hold off the Krynna long enough to live to fight another day. As they licked their wounds and tended to their fallen comrades, Ava knew that they had been betrayed by those they had once considered allies. But she also knew that they couldn't afford to dwell on their anger. The war was far from over, and they still had a chance to turn the tide in their favor. "We'll make them pay for this," she vowed, her voice filled with determination. "No matter what it takes." And so, as humanity licked its wounds and prepared to face the challenges that lay ahead, Commander Ava Kessler and her fellow soldiers vowed to never again trust in the promises of those who sought to destroy them. Chapter 5. Redemption. As the dust settled from the devastating betrayal by the Zeltari, Commander Ava Kessler and her remaining troops found themselves grappling with feelings of anger and betrayal. But amidst the chaos, a glimmer of hope emerged in the form of Rena, the rogue alien who had defected from the Krynna Dominion and now fought alongside humanity. "We need to find a way to turn this around," Rihanna said, her voice tinged with determination as she surveyed the remnants of their forces. "We can't let the Krynna win." Ava regarded Rena with a mixture of suspicion and gratitude. The alien had risked everything to help them, and now it was up to Ava to repay that debt. "You're right," Ava said, her voice firm. "We can't give up now. We'll find a way to beat them, no matter what it takes." With Rena's help, Ava and her troops began to plan their next move. They knew that they couldn't take on the Krynna head-on, not with their superior numbers and firepower, but perhaps they could find a way to outmaneuver them, to strike at their weak points and disrupt their supply lines. "We'll need to gather intelligence on their movements," Ava said, her mind already racing with possibilities. "Raina, do you have any contacts within the Dominion who could help us?" Raina nodded, a steely glint in her eyes. "I know someone who might be able to provide us with the information we need, but it won't be easy. The Krynna don't take kindly to traitors." Ava clenched her fists, determination burning bright within her. "Then we'll just have to be careful. We can't afford to let this opportunity slip through our fingers." As they made preparations for their daring mission, Dr. Marcus Chen worked tirelessly in his laboratory, developing new weapons and strategies to give them the edge they needed. Failure was not an option, not when so much was at stake. "We'll need something big if we're going to take on the Krynna," Marcus said, his brow furrowed in concentration as he studied his latest invention, something that can level the playing field. Ava nodded, impressed by Marcus's ingenuity. "Keep working on it, Marcus. We're counting on you to come up with something that can give us an edge." Meanwhile, Sarah Reyes wrestled with conflicting emotions as she grappled with the reality of their situation. The losses they had suffered were heavy, and the odds seemed stacked against them, but she refused to give in to despair, not when there was still a chance to make things right. "We'll get through this, Sarah," Rena said, her voice filled with quiet determination. "Together, we can overcome anything." And so, as Commander Ava Kessler and her makeshift alliance prepared to take the fight to the Krynna once again, they knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty. But they also knew that as long as they stood united, there was still hope for redemption. Chapter 6: Sacrifice. As Commander Ava Kessler and her makeshift alliance prepared to strike back against the Krynna Dominion, they knew that their chances of success was slim, but they refused to back down, not when there was still hope for victory. "We need to hit them where it hurts," Ava said, her voice filled with determination as she addressed her troops. "We'll launch a covert operation to disrupt their supply lines and weaken their defenses. It's our best chance to turn the tide of the war." Her soldiers nodded, their resolve unwavering as they prepared to embark on their dangerous mission. But Ava knew that success would come at a cost. Sacrifices would have to be made, and she was prepared to make them if it meant securing humanity's survival. "We'll need a diversion to draw their attention away from our main objective," Ava said, her mind already racing with possibilities. "I'll lead a strike team to hit one of their outposts while the rest of you carry out the mission." Rena stepped forward, a determined glint in her eyes. "I'll go with you, Commander. Together, we can make a difference." Ava nodded, grateful for Rena's support. "Thank you, Rena. Your bravery won't be forgotten." As they made their preparations, Dr. Marcus Chen worked tirelessly to finalize their plans. Every detail had to be perfect if they were going to have any chance of success. We'll need explosives to create a diversion, Marcus said, his voice tense with anticipation. I've rigged up a device that should do the trick, but it'll need to be manually activated. Ava nodded, impressed by Marcus's ingenuity. Good work, Marcus. We'll need to time it just right if we're going to catch the Crinner off guard. With their plans in place, Ava and her strike team set out under the cover of darkness. Their hearts heavy with the weight of their mission, they knew that the odds were stacked against them, but they refused to give up hope. As they approached the Crinner outpost, Ava's pulse quickened with anticipation. This was it, their chance to strike a blow against their enemies and turn the tide of the war in humanity's favor. Get ready, she whispered to her team, her voice barely audible over the sound of their footsteps. We go in on my mark. With a nod from her teammates, Ava activated the detonator, setting off the explosives and creating a massive explosion that rocked the outpost to its core. The Crinner were caught off guard, their forces thrown into disarray as Ava and her team launched their assault. But as they fought their way through the enemy lines, Ava knew that their victory would come at a heavy cost. With every step forward, they left behind fallen comrades, their sacrifices a reminder of the price of war. As they reached their objective and completed their mission, Ava felt a sense of bittersweet satisfaction. They had achieved their goal, but the cost had been high. She looked around at her remaining teammates, their faces grim but determined. We did it, she said, her voice filled with pride. But we couldn't have done it without the sacrifices of those who came before us. Their memory will live on in our hearts. And so, as they made their way back to safety, Ava and her team carried with them the weight of their losses, but also the hope that their sacrifice had not been in vain. Chapter 7. Reckoning. With their daring mission a success, but heavy losses weighing on their hearts, Commander Ava Kessler and her team returned to their base, determined to honor the memory of their fallen comrades. But their respite was short-lived, as news of a final showdown with General Zaltar and the Crinner Dominion reached them. We can't let them get away with what they've done, Ava said, her voice filled with determination as she addressed her troops. We'll take the fight to them and show them that humanity won't be defeated so easily. Her soldiers nodded in agreement, their eyes burning with resolve as they prepared for the battle ahead. They knew that the odds were against them, but they refused to back down, not when the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. As they made their final preparations, Dr. Marcus Chen worked tirelessly to ensure that they would have every advantage in the coming battle. His mind raced with possibilities as he devised new strategies and tactics to outmaneuver the Crinner forces. We'll need to hit them hard and fast, Marcus said, his voice filled with urgency. If we can catch them off guard, we might just stand a chance. Ava nodded, impressed by Marcus's determination. Agreed, we'll launch a coordinated assault on their stronghold and take them by surprise. With any luck, we'll catch them off guard and turn the tide of the war in our favor. Meanwhile, Sarah Reyes wrestled with conflicting emotions as she grappled with the reality of their situation. The losses they had suffered were heavy, and the odds seemed stacked against them, but she refused to give in to despair. Not when there was still a chance to make things right. We'll get through this, Sarah, Rena said, her voice filled with quiet determination. Together, we can overcome anything. Sarah nodded, drawing strength from Rena's words. She knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty, but she also knew that as long as they stood united, there was still hope for victory. As the final preparations were made and the troops rallied for battle, Ava couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gnawed at her insides, but she pushed aside her doubts, knowing that there was no turning back now. "We'll face whatever comes our way with courage and determination," she said, her voice firm, "and together we will emerge victorious." With their resolve steeled and their hearts filled with hope, Commander Ava Kessler and her makeshift alliance set out to confront General Zaltar and the Krynna Dominion once and for all. For they knew that the fate of the galaxy depended on their success, and they were determined to see justice served. Chapter 8: Resolution. The final battle against General Zaltar and the Krynna Dominion raged on, with Commander Ava Kessler and her makeshift alliance fighting tooth and nail to overcome their formidable foes. Explosions rocked the battlefield as laser fire streaked through the air, casting a grim shadow over the conflict. "We can't hold out much longer," one of Ava's lieutenants shouted, their voice barely audible over the cacophony of battle. Ava gritted her teeth, her heart pounding in her chest as she surveyed the chaos around her. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they refused to give up, not when there was still hope for victory. "We need to keep fighting," Ava shouted, her voice filled with determination. "We can't let them win." With renewed resolve, Ava and her troops redoubled their efforts, pushing forward against the onslaught of enemy forces. Every step forward felt like a battle against the weight of the universe itself, but they refused to back down. Meanwhile, Dr. Marcus Chen worked tirelessly to coordinate their forces and provide support where it was needed most. His mind raced with possibilities as he analyzed the battlefield and sought out weaknesses in the enemy's defenses. "We need to focus our fire on their flanks," Marcus shouted, his voice echoing through the chaos. "If we can break through their lines, we might just stand a chance." Ava nodded, impressed by Marcus's tactical acumen. "Do it, Marcus. We'll cover you." As Marcus's plan went into action, Sarah Reyes and Raina fought side by side, their pulse rifles blazing as they mowed down wave after wave of enemy soldiers. Despite the odds stacked against them, they refused to give in to despair, drawing strength from each other's courage. "We can do this, Sarah," Raina shouted, her voice filled with determination. "We just need to hold out a little longer." Sarah nodded, her heart pounding in her chest, as she fought alongside her newfound friend. They had come too far to give up now, and they refused to let their sacrifices be in vain. As the battle reached its climax, Ava and her troops launched a final, desperate assault on the enemy stronghold. Explosions rocked the fortress as they fought their way through the enemy's defenses, their determination unwavering in the face of overwhelming odds. "We're almost there," Ava shouted, her voice filled with adrenaline as they neared their objective. "Keep pushing forward." With a final, desperate effort, Ava and her troops breached the enemy's defenses and confronted General Zaltar himself. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal, with both sides fighting tooth and nail for victory. But in the end, it was humanity's unwavering resolve and determination that carried them through. With a final, desperate blow, Ava struck down General Zaltar and secured victory for her people. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded away, Ava and her troops stood victorious, their hearts filled with pride and gratitude. The war was finally over, and humanity had emerged triumphant against all odds. "We did it," Ava said, her voice filled with emotion as she surveyed the battlefield. "We won." And so, as Commander Ava Kessler and her fellow soldiers celebrated their hard-won victory, they knew that their sacrifices had not been in vain. For they had proven that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, humanity would always rise to the challenge and emerge stronger than ever before.